Welcome to another edition of Professor Elliot's Art Collective. Today, we're getting some truly inspirational vibes from truly ancient plants. Join us and we'll make some magic happen.
Appeal to me. All are nothing at all. Half a love never appeal to me.
Two important things to mention that we're going to make sure to do today to make sure that these things stay safe. One, don't mess with it, don't take clippings and stomp all over it. And two, we're not going to be revealing where we're at because we want to make sure that this space stays a little bit more on the hidden side. Once we reach the top of the hill here, I'll show you the first plant and I'll tell you all about it.
Okay.
All right, let's head up. All right. It's a Palmer's oak. This tree is actually 14,000 years old by some estimates. Every time a forest fire would come through here, its roots would pop up in another location and start a new tree. So it's actually a clonal tree. This one and all the others that you see that are similar around the hills here, they're actually all a part of the same root system.
Oh, wow.
And so they've all popped up bit by bit by bit over the thousands of years and survived here. It's actually asexual. It doesn't have any, it grows acorns, but they don't actually do anything.
Oh,
and so it's the last of its kind in this area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When this thing was first planted, there were still American lions roaming these hills.
Oh, wow.
I might just have to dry you up in that. Sam was sitting out there far yonder. And he just seems so small compared to everything else. Small. How small we are in comparison to the universe, in comparison to just our own surroundings. But yet, how important we are, how significant. And I wanted to capture an essence of that and a vibrant, like the positive energy that engulfs it all. Not just, you know, it's just so pretty over there. Everything seems so different. It's hard to focus on negative energy when you're surrounded by so much beauty. So the vibrant colors are natural to me.
I'm just working off the rest right now. So I started with a face because that's kind of my comfort zone. But I'm going to work through, like I already kind of mapped out some of the branches and things like that. And I'm going to carry it on through a couple of pages to kind of represent the roots. We'll just kind of see where it goes there. I kind of like having some sort of like background noise to it so I can just add on and add on.
I kind of like orchestrating noise. I like the idea of turning all these unrelated things and making them work together. There's just so many different things out there, and I feel like there's always a way to make them work.
The thing about these trees is they've survived for thousands of years, but now that it's surrounded by city on all sides, who knows what might happen to it. That's kind of why we're not revealing where they're at. I mean, even heading up this hill, we pass areas that people use to dump their trash and their garbage. There's rubber tires and things like that down there, and these trees are a little bit too close for comfort for my taste.
Feeling tired of civilization, we decided to leave, but not before picking up another artist. Next stop was the Mojave Desert.
We're here in the middle of the Mojave Desert to check out our second plant. This is a creosote bush. This particular creosote bush is estimated to be about 11,700 years old. It's all part of the same root system, just as the oak was. It's actually a part of the Rings National Preserve. So as we walk around this area, you'll see a lot of other rings of creosote bushes because they have the tendency to do that out here, to clone themselves.
I'd drawn little figurines like that in the past, but I just like taped them to things and left them there. And I would never take a photo. So this was the first time I actually had to think about how I wanted to set it up. Was it actually going to work? Is the white of the paper going to be too bright, etc., etc., etc.
The thing I'm trying to do is just getting the little figures to climb on the trees, so that's why I was going for that pose. The other one's just been buried in the dirt.
It seemed like we were surrounded by hills as well, like we're in the middle of circle within circle within circle. And so it's just, it was just a beautiful blue day in the midst of all these circles. I wanted to represent that with the snake, as I'm aware that the snake means infinity.
When the snake is eating its own tail, it's
Yes.
called the Ouroboros.
Yes, and it also represents infinity, or I like infinitum better, the word infinitum better. But I wanted to kind of try to capture that and kind of make that the never-ending aspect. I wanted to capture that, and then there's also a lot of green. I was inspired by that, and I wanted to make sure that at least I had some green on there. So I just splattered green initially to make sure that no matter what I did, I would make sure that the green was there.
I like the idea of it as kind of like this long-standing sentient being that sort of like spreads out and retracts, but overall it's just been there this whole time, and I kind of wanted a way to personify it a bit more. I found one of the greatest ways to personify something is just to kind of give it eyes, give it something to look back at, or more specifically, let it look back at you. But I'm also gonna kind of push the idea of like kind of like a large expansive observer. But right now it's like I get a concept and then I just refine it.
Beautiful.
With the sun setting, we decided to head back for some studio time.
It's almost like, I don't know, it's gonna sound cheesy, but sometimes it's kind of like a dialogue between the piece and kind of like what I'm trying to do, because I try to let these happy accidents happen, and that, I mean, I try to make little connections, and if it's working one way, great, and if not, I have to like kind of like push it and force it to go in another direction. Like, because right now I've got this nasty splotches I was trying to establish values with, and it just did not work at all. So now I'm gonna have to go and kind of like go over it a bit more. Probably reinforce it with some line work, because I'll go back and forth between line work and values and rendering, and then I'll do line work over that, and I'm just gonna I gotta leapfrog them. But once I have an idea, I can run at it, and sometimes that starts at the beginning, and sometimes it kind of comes after a bit of exploration, and that's sort of what happened with this piece. And it takes a little longer, and it's a little bit sloppier, and it takes a lot more refinement, but I've noticed it tends to be a bit more organic, a little more lively that way. I wanted to kind of show the expanse of them, like as an entire field, almost like an entire world of it. But I kind of wanted to connect it a little bit more, and so I threw on the pupils kind of like a ram's eye, like a ram's pupil ram or whatever. One, just because it looks kind of visually freaky, but also I like the idea of it being kind of like not quite like a nature spirit, but maybe if it was like a little more personified version of these rooted clusters, and like having this kind of like field of this one interconnected organism, and it just kind of like looking up and just observing, because it's just been sitting there for thousands and thousands of years, like living and dying, but as a whole still here. So I just imagined if it was like kind of like one sort of sentient organism, kind of like what would be one way to represent that, and I think that's kind of where I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna have those sort of like brushy feelers that were there, because I love that sort of like interconnected branches and tentacles and that sort of thing. Overall, there's, I mean, like when just looking at almost anything, there's just so much like ridiculous amount of detail in any given image. You know, you look anywhere in a room and it's just like there's like millions of things going on, and a lot of it is just kind of filtered out automatically, just with our eyes, and really out of necessity, because it's overwhelming. But because of that, I thought there's plenty going on already that we normally see. Why not kind of switch up the noise and make it a little more specific, a little more stylized? And so I kind of start with a very like expressive gestural sort of background here with just these letters, and as I add on more and more, they're going to become like less and less apparent on what they originally were, and it's going to become part of kind of that background noise.
I came across a rose quartz. Obviously not out of place because it belongs there, but it just was pink in the middle of the desert with the shrubs and everything, and so I just thought that this was a perfect canvas. Like, I knew I wanted to use it for this project. I just have to be very careful. The lines are so small, and so it's time consuming, and a lot of people would find that tedious, but I actually find it very therapeutic. Every time I do something like this, it relaxes me. A lot of my work has intricate lines in it, and it's very, very soothing to me. And it also, I think it shows, like, these are the kind of undertones that people, or the subliminal messages that come through a piece of work that people don't really sometimes know how to identify why they feel a certain way when they see it, or why they react, or why they get something out of a piece, is because all of these emotions that were going into it as you were doing it. Like, sometimes the viewer will connect to that and maybe not always be able to identify exactly what it is, but they can relate. And that's what makes art to me so interesting. And that's why a lot of times it's important that we don't give too much away, because we want to give the viewer that experience of making it their own, you know.
Self-discovery.
Yeah, just as it was for the artist, you know. And many times that doesn't necessarily mean the same discovery, but it's just as powerful.
With photographs that I take, I like to take really up close shots of things. I like to get really detailed, and a lot of the times, like, and with a lot of the photos, it's a lot of like down on the ground stuff. Like with that plant, I was getting a lot of the shots I really did like were right of like where the branches start to come out. I think that's the most texturally interesting part, and so that's probably where my favorite photos came out of. I try to take a whole lot of photos, and then I go in there and, you know, I flag the ones I like. Usually a week or two ago I had already gone through and cut down about 2/3 of the photos I took, because that's usually how many turn out bad. And then the ones that I feel like I can edit or enhance in any way that they will turn out the way I want them, I keep. And then we see if it'll actually work, and like we saw, sometimes it does not work. Sometimes I can't edit it and make it the way I want to, despite my best efforts. A lot of the times I'll feel like I'm on, when I see it as a digital image, I will say like, I really like this. This is good. This is great. Or sometimes, you know, good enough. But sometimes like, then in printing it kind of changes, because it'll come down to the kind of paper I'm using. I usually use matte paper because I like the way it looks better than glossy. But sometimes certain photos, after they print, it loses a little bit of that on the matte paper. And I'll have to say, well, yeah, no, it looks good, but it's, you know, it's good enough. I'll have to be happy with this, because I don't usually carry around glossy. And again, that's a thing on my part, but.
Yeah, I'm always interested in what artists think of like ending their artwork.
Yeah.
Like Da Vinci said that artwork's never finished, it's only abandoned. You know, it's no, I'm done. You know, it has nothing to do with the piece being done.
I don't know. I don't think he's totally right in saying that. I think that's kind of, that's a subjective thing, I suppose. I mean, you know, I'm done when I'm done, and that's what it is. You know, I guess you could call that abandoning or whatever, but I don't. I'm finished with it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I have more of an angry relationship with my artwork, I guess.
Thanks for joining us. If you dug our groove, please send us some love. Join us next time when we make a tribute to some of the early Dadai's works, cutting up some train tickets and photos from magazines. I'm looking at you, Duchamp.